welcome back to the homestead. I am super excited today because the frosts are over and we can freely plant whatever we want to plant now. I don't know about you, but I can tend to be a very driven person, just really wanting to get this homestead finished. Sometimes I'm too driven to finish one project so I can get on to the next, and all with the hope that then I can slow down and kind of relax once things are set up. But in reality, it's probably going to still take years to get even just the area right around our house finished. So I have to constantly remind myself to slow down and enjoy the process, enjoy my family, and enjoy just all the things that are completed that we can really be thankful to the Father for. And so I thought I'd invite you into the garden today to slow down with me, to take a look at some of my favorite perennial flowers and herbs for spring. It's kind of that time of year where all the beautiful color of the spring bulbs has pretty much passed, and we're still waiting for the summer blooms to come. So I'm still looking for things that will fill in this gap, and our garden is still pretty young. Some parts of it are only a year old, and then more established areas are 5-6 years old. So let's look at some tried and true varieties of perennial flowers and herbs that have worked in our Zone 6 Missouri Ozarks so far. There's lots of new little plants out here that are not tried and true, so I won't really talk about those. I'm just going to be talking today about the ones that we've had for a few years now and that have done really well. So if you're new to our channel, this is what we happily refer to as our kitchen garden. I'm not sure how much space this is. It started out small and has just grown over the years. So this is the space that we're going to be in today. We do also have a very small front garden, which is going to eventually be our barnyard garden. We don't have our permanent barn in place yet. We also have another space that's going to give us an extra about 1,000 square feet of planting space that we're calling our main crop area. And we kind of had to just put that on hold because some other projects became more of a priority here on the homestead. So there's not much to show you in that area today either. So today we're just going to spend time in our kitchen garden, one of my favorite places to be. This is Candy Tuft, and I started this from seed a couple years ago. This is the first year that it's really blooming nicely, and it's just so pretty. Some varieties of Candy Tuft actually will bloom twice. You can get a spring bloom and then cut them back, and then they'll bloom again in the summer or fall, depending on the variety. But in any case, even once the flowers go, they're still really beautiful little plants. Here are the ones that I chopped off, and there's still nice little green plants there. So right off the patio here, we've got Burgundy Glow Ajuga. It's a little ground cover that it just sends off all these little shoots and covers the ground, and right now it's got these beautiful little flowers on it. I just love it. So we keep spreading it around the garden in all those areas that need covered. This is anise hyssop, and it's gotten quite tall, so I'm going to be harvesting some of that. I've got 4 of those plants in here. So if you like the flavor of licorice, you will love anise hyssop. It does really well in our Zone 6 here, and it's just really abundant. It just keeps multiplying. I keep spreading it around, and we don't have a really good dehydration system yet. So today I'm just going to be getting the leaves, no stems. Hopefully I can get the leaves dried before it gets too humid here. It's my favorite herb for tea. I love the smell, I love the taste, and like many herbs, it's just packed with nutrition. It's kind of like giving the plant a haircut. You just kind of cut about the same height so that it keeps it all uniform. So there we go, this one's got a haircut, and now it's going to send off a whole bunch more little tender shoots that we'll be able to harvest later. Alright, plant. We will cut off the leaves of those later and get them dehydrating. I'll probably just put them into a paper sack and put them in Kip's truck. It's the only way I can really dehydrate at this point. Alright, so next is dianthus. This one's just starting to bloom. It's called Sweetness. It's a pretty new variety, but we've had Arctic Fire dianthus for years now. I'll show you that. So here is the Arctic Fire dianthus, which I just love. So pretty. And I started with one little plant. Now I've got a whole bunch of them. I just keep spreading them around the garden. There's more over here, just starting to open up. So pretty. And while I'm over here, here's two more plants that I just love. This is, of course, chives, and they've got the most beautiful little blossoms this time of year. And then right next to it is called Snow and Summer, or I think it's also called Silver Carpet. And it's doing really well. So pretty this time of year. All right, going back over to the area we call the circle garden, we have chocolate mint, which would take over the garden, as you can tell if we let it. Chocolate mint was the first kind of mint that we started with when we first put in the garden, and it has traveled all over the garden. I keep trying to find a way to confine it. We like it, but it is a pretty strong mint, and my tea time buddy Esther Pie doesn't care for a really strong mint, so I usually recommend instead apple mint or mountain mint. So I'll show you those. Here's the apple mint, and it is absolutely flourishing this time of year. We need to trim this back and start using it for tea, drying it. It spreads really fast, just like the chocolate mint, so eventually I'm going to be taking this out and potting it up probably, or putting it in a more confined location. As you can see, it's all over here as well, just spreading, spreading, spreading. And on the other side of this bed, the mountain mint. Look at that. It's literally like a little mountain. It stays very neat and tidy. It doesn't spread very much, and it's actually a pretty mild mint, and it gets a really pretty little blossom on it later on. So we will definitely be probably chopping this down here, trimming it up, and drying it for tea. Here we have a Veronica, and it's not totally in bloom yet, but you can see it's got the starts. Any day now it's going to have these beautiful little spires of white little flowers coming up. This variety is called Moody Blues, and it's a white Veronica. And I started with one plant and have since divided that into, I think, about 7 plants. So it's one that you can pretty easily divide every year or so. Over here we have creeping thyme, and this is its favorite time of year. It's not blooming right now, but it is super lush and beautiful, and I love to put it on our whole chicken that I roast. And of course there's lots of other uses for thyme in the kitchen. Alright, we're back around to the chives here. Forgot to mention this when I was showing the chives and the flowers over here. This is lovage. It does really well in our zone. However, we had a late frost and snow, so some of the leaves, you can see some of the leaves didn't take too well to that. So I just have been trimming the dead stuff off and using the fresh leaves. It's similar to celery in taste, so you can take the leaves off and use them in soups and things. So over in our orchard area, we've got a lot of perennials, and right now I'm really loving this wild phlox. I think it's wild sweet William. It's a type of phlox, and it just keeps on blooming. I love how much color it gives amongst the green here. It's been blooming for about a month now. It grows all over our property, and out in the wild it doesn't bloom very long, but here in the garden under the apple tree, the blooms just keep on coming. So I'm going to keep transplanting from the wild into our garden space here. I just love this phlox. And then of course there's a bunch of little Johnny jump ups this time of year. They're so beautiful. We keep spreading them around the garden as well. They come back from seed really easily here. So in the spring it's fun to hunt all of the new little Johnny jump up plants in the pathways and put them into the little nooks and crannies under the trees here. Sweet violets are another fun flower this time of year. There's lots of different varieties. This is a white one, Many of them are purple, and I'm learning that different varieties bloom at different times. So this year we've had about 3 different types that have bloomed at different times, and that's been really fun to see the different colors through the spring. Of course, I can't forget the comfrey. We have comfrey all over the place underneath our fruit trees, and it is just about to open up with some pretty little purple buds. They haven't started yet, but really close. And we use comfrey for all sorts of things. It's one of Esther Pie's favorite things to use in tea. So we'd like to make like a cold pressed tea with comfrey. We use it in the compost. It's a really good compost activator. It draws up nutrition from down deep for whatever is around it in the ground. We feed it to almost all the animals. So it's just a really good plant, but make sure you get the Russian comfrey that does not self-seed. You really don't want to have self-seeded comfrey all over your garden. And then right next to that is my favorite columbine. We have wild columbine that's kind of got some red and yellow colors to it, but I found this one, it's called Pink Petticoat, and I really love the colors. It's so cute. Beautiful pink and white that I really enjoy. Alright, so now we're back in the back of the garden, which is kind of in transition. We're turning this all into orchard back here. We've added a new peach tree over here where the double arch trellis used to be. We did leave one trellis for this year, but that's going to go eventually because we're turning this all into orchard back here. So this is an area that needs a lot of work still. It has 3 perennials in here that just go crazy. This is a chamomile called Zadilan, I think is the variety, and it has just self-seeded all over, even though last year I tried my best to cut it so that it wouldn't seed. It's everywhere. So I'm gonna have to find a way to confine this chamomile because I really want to grow chamomile for tea, and it's got the beautiful little flowers in the spring. They're just about to open up. But I don't want it to spread all over the garden and have to be constantly pulling it up. So if you have any ideas for what I can do with my chamomile, let me know in the comments below. And we still have a bunch of garlic chives. These don't seed until in the summertime, so it doesn't really give any spring beauty other than the greens. The greens are beautiful by themselves and they're so tasty. Garlic chives are really mild, and I love to chop them into salads. So I have a bunch that have gotten very huge back here. I need to dig them up and divide them out. And just like the chamomile, it will seed all over the place, so you really have to be on top of deadheading the flower shoots when they come up so that you don't have garlic chives all over the garden. Alright, I'll share one last plant for today. I've probably missed some, but this is red crimson bee balm. It doesn't flower until later spring or summertime, but it is delicious in tea, and when it does bloom, it's an excellent pollinator. The bees and everything just love it. So it is on my favorite list. However, I am going to try and invest in one that's a different color. This one's got a very bright red color to it. So I'm thinking of getting one that's a little bit more mild, a lavender color, something like that. I think it might be Kip's favorite herb for tea. He doesn't care for the anisissa because he doesn't care for the licorice taste. The bee balm has more of the Earl Grey flavor to it. So that's a great one if you like Earl Grey tea. Okay, one more. This is actually not a tried and true. It's a hopeful. These are peonies. And I had them in the ground for a couple of years, and the plants just kept getting some kind of fungus on them. So I decided to pot them up where they could get some better airflow here. And it looks like these are going to be opening soon. I never had good blooms on them yet. This one's a Shirley Temple peony, and I started with 2 plants and have divided. I've got 2 new plants started here off of the 2 originals from division. So I'm really hopeful that the peonies are going to be a tried and true perennial flower for spring. We'll see. Alright, so those are some of my favorites off the top of my head, just wandering around the garden here today. Favorite perennial herbs and flowers. you have any favorites that you'd like to share, please drop a comment down below. And also, next week's video, noisy goose. Next week's video, we're gonna do a Q&A. We've had a lot of questions coming in through our comments and email, and it's been a long time since we've done a Q&A. So if you have a question for us, leave it in the comments below this video. And next week, we'll plan on trying to answer as many of those questions as we can for the video. We're also hoping to do a full spring garden tour here soon. A lot of stuff is just really small, so it's hard to see little baby plants. So once those plants get a little bit bigger and you can actually see what's going on better, we'll do a full spring garden tour. Thanks for joining me in the garden this morning. Until next time, we pray blessings over you and yours. And whatever you do it with your whole heart. Good morning! Did you have good sleep?
Yeah.
How are you this morning?
Good.
Good. Joining me in the garden today, this morning.
Mama, right when you were talking at the plants, I was being quiet.
Thank you for being quiet. I appreciate that.